In January 1947, a woman's mutilated corpse became the blueprint for every unsolved murder that followed, and nobody was ever charged. Elizabeth Short was 22 years old when she vanished into the Los Angeles night. By the time her severed body was discovered in a vacant lot on Norton Avenue, the case had already begun its metamorphosis into legend. Not because the killer was brilliant, but because the investigation was catastrophically mishandled, and because the victim herself became more famous in death than she ever could have been in life. The morning of January 15, 1947, a mother and daughter stumbled upon what they thought was a discarded mannequin on a patch of grass. It wasn't. The body had been drained of blood, bisected at the waist with surgical precision, and posed with deliberate care. The killer hadn't simply murdered Elizabeth Short. He'd curated her death like a piece of performance art. Within hours, the Los Angeles Police Department descended on the scene like vultures. But here's where everything went wrong. Hundreds of officers trampled the crime scene, obliterating evidence. Reporters were given access before investigators had finished their work. And in their desperation to solve the case, detectives began following leads that had nothing to do with finding the killer. The press nicknamed her the Black Dahlia, a reference to a film noir picture, and some say a cruel nod to the way her body had been desecrated. Newspapers ran her photograph daily. Radio stations broadcast updates. Hollywood became obsessed, and Elizabeth Short, who'd been a struggling actress known to almost nobody, became the most famous victim in American criminal history. But the obsession blinded investigators. Hundreds of confessions poured in from cranks, from the disturbed, from attention seekers. The LAPD chased each one. Hundreds of suspects emerged. Some were interrogated for days. None of them were the killer. Meanwhile, the actual evidence, fingerprints, physical forensics, behavioral clues, was either lost, mishandled, or ignored entirely. One suspect stood out, a man named George Hodel, a physician with a reputation for cruelty and sexual depravity. His house became a den of rumors and whispered accusations, but without solid evidence, he couldn't be charged. And when he eventually fled to Asia, the case seemed to die with him. Hodel remained a person of interest for decades, but was never prosecuted. What made the Black Dahlia case so durable wasn't the mystery itself. It was what the mystery revealed about mid-century America, a police force willing to bend rules in pursuit of a solution, a media machine that turned tragedy into spectacle, a society obsessed with beauty and fame, even in death. Decades later, investigators would examine the case with fresh eyes. Cold case units would re-interview witnesses. New forensic techniques would be applied to old evidence. But the trail had gone cold in 1947, and by then, whoever killed Elizabeth Short had already vanished into history. In 2018, a grand jury in Los Angeles heard evidence suggesting that George Hodel was almost certainly the killer. But Hodel was long dead by then. No charges were ever filed. No closure ever came. The case remains officially unsolved, a monument to the limits of justice when time itself becomes the criminal's greatest accomplice. But here's what matters. The Black Dahlia case didn't just haunt Los Angeles. It fundamentally changed how American law enforcement approached murder investigations. The bungled response to her death became a textbook example of what not to do. Police academies studied it. Detectives learned from it. In some perverse way, Elizabeth Short's tragedy became a catalyst for reform. The case also exposed something darker, the machinery of fame in Hollywood. A young woman with dreams, struggling to make it in a ruthless industry, became a commodity the moment she died. Her name, her face, her suffering, all of it was packaged and sold by newspapers hungry for circulation. Elizabeth Short never appeared in a major film. She had no credits, no agent, no real connections in the industry. Yet her murder became the defining narrative of Hollywood in the 1940s. She achieved a twisted kind of fame, not through talent or ambition, but through violence and the media's appetite for it. What we still don't know about the Black Dahlia case far exceeds what we do. The killer's motive remains opaque. The exact sequence of events that led to her death is lost to time. Her final hours, where she went, who she met, what transpired, remain shrouded in contradiction and speculation. But that uncertainty is precisely why the Black Dahlia endures. In an age obsessed with solved mysteries and narrative closure, here's a case that refuses to be solved. It sits in the cultural consciousness like an unhealed wound, a reminder that some stories don't have endings. Writers have fictionalized her death hundreds of times. Filmmakers have dramatized it. True crime podcasters have rehashed every detail. Yet the fundamental truth remains unchanged. Whoever killed Elizabeth Short got away with it. And that failure, that absence of justice, is what keeps her story alive. The Black Dahlia case teaches us that some murders matter not because they're solved, but because they are unsolved. Not because the killer is caught, but because he escaped. It's a case that transformed a young woman into a symbol of lost potential, of systemic failure, of the dark underbelly of fame. Nearly 80 years later, we still ask the same questions. Who was she? What happened to her? And why does a crime from 1947 continue to captivate us? The answers, perhaps, say more about us than they do about the case itself. We're drawn to unsolved mysteries because they acknowledge the limits of our understanding. They humble us. The Black Dahlia remains what she's always been, a woman whose death mattered more than her life ever could. A victim whose name became a brand, a murder that changed everything while solving nothing. And perhaps that's the most unsettling truth of all. Subscribe to uncover the hidden histories that shaped our world. Cases like this one deserve to be remembered, not forgotten.